Welcome back to Primetime News. Thanks for staying with us. Pressing questions were raised about security and the need for the National Identification System NIDS at the Joint Select Committee meeting. More groups presented their recommendations on Friday.
The private sector organization of Jamaica and Jamaicans for Justice were among groups presenting to the Parliamentary Committee on Friday, questioning wording and syntax of the legislation. But it was attorney Francesca Tavares of the Love March movement who seemed to ruffle some feathers. Through biometric data, NIDS proposes to be more efficient in addressing identity theft and fraud. However, Ms. Tavares dismissed that, noting that the government has not presented any data to support that promise, and even pointing to cases in India where there was increased concern despite the implementation of a similar ID system.
The Indian Supreme Court struck down the government's measure of mandatory linking of Aadhaar to bank accounts in order to reduce financial crime on the ground that there was no demonstrable proof that Aadhaar could actually reduce financial crime or money laundering. Therefore, as NIDS will not address or solve corruption, fraud, or other criminal incidents as it's being promoted to do, again, we question its necessity and strongly recommend that if implemented, its utilization remains restricted to the stated purpose of authentication.
She also cautioned against the possibility of leaning entirely on NIDS, whereby making it de facto mandatory for public and private services, triggering interruptions from committee members.
Just like they use the driver's license now on the passport, and they say, well, you need it. There's nothing that prevents them from saying you need two pieces of ID to do a transaction. How does the government tell a business that is functioning within the law that it should not function with the way it is functioning?
So, Mr. Tavares, is it that you believe in the NIDS, you accept and that we need to have an ID in Jamaica that, that is of a high level in terms of security?
No, Mr. Tavares, as I mentioned, Mr. Tavares, we have gone through the bill, so just, as I said, just highlight the main points because there will be a short response to it and we're going to give you a detailed response later on.
This presentation is bringing into sharp focus the most contentious part of what we will have to grapple with.
Which
even as difficult as it is to hear it, but we must hear it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I too would prefer that you don't rush Ms. Tavares. I am keenly interested in hearing everything she has to say.
Ms. Tavares continued listing concerns about information collection and storage, protecting against future inappropriate use of the data and alternative systems used in other states, including the United Kingdom. As for the cost,
we recognize that number one issue, probably number 1 through to number 10 issue in Jamaica right now is crime. And we're really wondering whether $1 billion plus interest in debt without any impact on crime is really the best way forward.
Sashali Hamilton, TVJ News.